Can anybody hear me?
Day of racing this weekend at the Echelon Racing League. It is the legendary Paso dello Stelvio as we take another look at some of the RGT real roads this week. Brad Soner here, joined by Frank Conduit, a new addition to our commentary team today, taking a day off the bike and joining the commentary team, and of course James Vickers of RGT. Frank, I want to start with you because you've been out there the last couple days on the bike. It's got to feel good to get a little rest after two very tough days of racing. How are the legs feeling after the Paterberg yesterday?
Yeah, Brad, I'm pretty cracked. I'm not even gonna try to fake that I'm not. It's been hard racing the last 2 days, and I would be lying if I were to say I'm not happy to not be lining up today.
James, I think a lot of riders are going to be sharing that thought coming into the third day of racing today, but this will by far be the hardest day of racing. I think the Paso dello Stelvio, one of the hardest courses on RGT out there.
Yeah, what a great 2 days we've had so far, and I'm really excited to see what happens for our third and final stage. We've had Borrego with the flat-out sprint at the end, and then we had an opportunity for the punchy guys to go yesterday up the Paterberg, and today it's going to be an all-out watts per kilo fest. It's all going to be about body weight versus power. I think it's going to be a really interesting race to watch. And looking forward to seeing how some of the guys that have done well in the previous stages will get on later today.
All right, let's take a look at what these riders are looking at this season here in the Echelon Racing League. A very interesting format, as we said, racing on RGT, a unique platform to racing because these riders get to race based on real-life courses. We'll import the elevation data, the distance, all that stuff, and then create those courses on RGT. They do go through power and weight verification to make sure that everyone is on a level playing field. They have to submit their weight before the race, and then that is matched up with their power. Each team fielding 4 to 6 riders out of a roster of 12 for the entire season, and they'll do 22 days of racing total for each team. Now, they don't have to race the same riders every day because this is a points-based omnium instead of a time-based omnium. So riders are competing for time in the stage races, but once they get those stage race results, those are then turned into points tables for the general classification. So it's an omnium scoring across all of the events. We start with the RGT Real Road stage races here, but then we're going to races like Tour de Gila in Silver City, New Mexico, the Thompson-Bucks County Classic, Armed Forces Cycling Classic in Washington, D.C. Then it's the Gateway Cup in January, followed by the legendary Redlands Bicycle Classic based out of Redlands, California, before we go to the Joe Martin stage race and then the Green Mountain stage race, and then wrap things up with 4 days of criterium racing at the Tour of America's Dairyland, another classic American series of criterium racing. So really a cool opportunity for riders to come together in what has been a crazy year here in 2020, but it's our chance to kind of get together and race our bikes, some of the things that we missed over this last year. Frank, you've had a chance to reconnect with some riders that you've been used to racing on the road with and meeting some new riders from around the world. It's kind of interesting, isn't it, racing against a field like this where you don't know them as well as you would during the season.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I mean, and to be completely honest, racing with Project Echelon, lining up Friday night for the Borrego Springs crit, that's the first time I've lined up with my team. So it's been interesting connecting on Discord, having the DS there help us out, and it's definitely been a different experience than you would get in real life. And then just seeing the guys like Mike Swart and Jaden Yeager and those guys who I've lined up with and dozens of crits in real life, getting to line up with them virtually, it's not the same as real life, but it's just as much fun.
Well, let's talk about some of those real-life courses that they're racing on today. Obviously, the legendary Paso dello Stelvio today. It's up, up, and up as we take a look at the course profile presented by Velo Viewer. Whole lot of orange and yellow in this one. But, James, the real sting is at the top of this one. It's really about fatigue on the Stelvio.
I'm excited to see how the race pans out. So the last two events, we've seen blistering starts from the outset. Frank and I were just remarking before we went live that the starts have been vicious, almost violent in how they've gone out from the gun. This is going to be a different affair, and there's no need. This is all about how you approach the climb, how you measure your effort moving forwards. And like you said, it's up, up, and up. And that's all the riders are going to do today. They're just going to keep going up. It's all about that measured effort, just not blowing up, but going up. That's what we're going to say today.
All right, well, real quick before we get started with our race today, just about 5 minutes out from our women's race start, I want to go back to yesterday on the Paterberg, where we had stage 2 of our real road stage race, the second of 3 days of racing. And guys, this was a little bit of a surprise for us. Frank, I want to start with you because you were out there. We thought we were going to see a split. I was a little surprised how long it took the group to get away.
Was interesting. I do think we saw that split. We did get down. It was a bit of a field split. I think we had 10 riders after the first lap together, and then it just whittled down from there to where you finished up with those 3 riders at the end, with I think Sidlick and Chafin being the last 2 to drop off. But no, there's no easy way to ride this. There's no sitting in. On the Paterberg, I noticed it when I was racing yesterday. I got gapped off in the first lap, going up the Paterberg while doing, 7 watts per kilo. And when you hit 19%, it's just put it in a gear, stand on the pedals, and just eke it out, because you can't. If you slow down, you stop.
Yeah, and it was another close finish on the line. We saw Christy Tracy with a photo finish over Elena O'Mara, so we're certainly going to be watching those 2 names out there today, as typically we see riders that have good results on one day carry that form through to the next one. So a lot of riders to watch out there as riders start to log in and get ready to go. We are now 3 minutes away from race time, and it's hard to imagine that there's anybody else to look for the big name out there than Christy Tracy here. James, after what we've seen over the last 2 days, I think Tracy's at the top of my list for today.
Yeah, definitely. Quite light as well, 61 kilos compared to some of the other female athletes that are at the top of the scoreboard at the moment. Absolutely phenomenal outing yesterday. Took a sprint up halfway up the Paterberg, and then O'Mara came around, and then Tracy was still able to finish it and do the business on the line. Hopefully today we're going to see some exciting racing from her as well. Obviously carrying form into the first Project Echelon Racing League event. So looking forward to seeing Christy racing again.
All right, well, we are inside 2 minutes to race start now. Frank, any other riders out there that we should be keeping an eye on? Maybe a rider that has been relatively quiet this weekend might make an appearance here on the Stelvio?
I mean, I think with this being a mountain climb, I think the 2 riders to watch, in my opinion, are going to be Krista Doble-Hickok from Rally Cycling. This is her type of race. She's been looking forward. If you follow her on Twitter, this is what she's been looking forward to all weekend. And then Stephanie Sidlick from Velocity Vixen is another one. She's a monster climber, and I think is really going to help make the race.
Doble-Hickok had a rough day yesterday, finding herself off the back on the Paterberg, but hopefully that gave her a little time to recover. I think a lot of riders, once they get dropped out of that main group, they kind of ease off the gas a little bit to keep a little in the tank for the next day. Frank, talking about fatigue over a 3-day stage race here over the weekend, how similar is it to doing a 3-day road race stage race? Obviously, these RGT races a little shorter. Normally, you'd be doing a few hours on the road. These are usually hour and a half, but are there any tricks, or is there additional recovery that you have to do in a 3-day stage race like this?
I don't think there's any additional. I do think the stage racing here is very similar to real life. The stages are shorter, but they're more impactful. You're always pedaling. There's no coasting, so it's much more condensed of an effort. You do feel like you've raced a 3-day stage race, real life or virtual, when you wake up in the morning on day 3. And I think you get more recovery in a virtual one because you are at home. You're able to sleep in your own bed, sit on your own couch. You have all your stuff right at your fingertips in your house.
All right, well, we are underway and racing as the clock hits 0, and I'm going to guess that we're going to see a lot of similar names up here at the front pretty quickly. James, take us through the course here. The climbing starts relatively early, but it doesn't really get hard until you're about halfway up.
Sorry, I think it's easy for us to say right now it doesn't get hard, Brad. But I mean, looking at the start there, the guys have gone pretty hard. Look, there's some yellow numbers now. There's some orange numbers now. Not all in the red still, but we're climbing and we're at 10%. 8, 9, 10% between that area from the outset. There is ebb and flow with the climb, and there are some very short opportunities to recover. But to take you through the Passo dello Stelvio, it's hard. It's a tough traditional Italian pass, lots of hairpins. I mean, look at that aerial shot. You can see that the group as they move through the lower ends of the climb, but they are going up now, and they will be going up for the next 45 minutes, I would say. So there is no respite. The only thing to know is that it's going to be tough for them. It's going to be, it's not going to be easy.
I'm glad I'm sitting behind a microphone today and not on a trainer, that's for sure, because this is a painful day of riding out there, and it's a long effort too. I mean, there's not a whole lot of rest, especially when you're racing against this group. If they start seeing numbers that go green or blue, you can bet riders are going to start attacking. Speaking of those numbers, we're talking about the different power zones. You see in the upper left-hand side of your screen the power meter that shows the different colors. Now, those correspond to the colors with the riders. It shows their FTP, their functional threshold power. It's a nerdy number that bike racers use basically to measure how much effort they're doing. So RGT does those calculations based on the power and weight of the riders, their FTP, and then it puts them into a zone. So the blue zone is the easiest, the red zone is the hardest. We very rarely see riders in the red zone for more than 10 or 15 seconds. It's just impossible to stay in that zone. Frank, where do you spend most of your time in a race like this? Are you in yellow? Are you in green? Where is there a goal that you want to stay in a situation like this?
I mean, in a race like this on the Stelvio, your threshold, you're touching into the red every now and then if you have to. But I mean, at 8%, it's a power test really. There's no, there's not really a draft to catch, and you're really trying to. This is a measured effort where you are trying to stay with the group, but you really have to ride within yourself as well. And you're basically, it's an hour effort. It's an FTP test.
Some riders going to love that. Some riders maybe not so much. If you have that good, long, sustained power, then this is probably a good course for you. But a lot of riders were finding success by just being good on the platform, by understanding the drafting, figuring out the physics of the game. You can save quite a bit of energy by just cracking that code. But on a day like today, there's not a whole lot of turning, not a whole lot of strategy. It's just go as hard as you can. So, Frank, just like you said, see most of the riders staying in kind of the orange and the yellow, and then every once in a while they'll tap into the red zone. How many times can you do that? I mean, are you watching how many times you're going into the red zone? Are you aware of where you are on that scale?
You are. I think it's, touching it, for 5 seconds, 10 seconds here or there, it starts to accumulate, but I think over time, you can do that probably a half dozen times or so, maybe a dozen. It's, with an effort like this, what you really have to worry about is the going into the sustain, because there's no recovery on a race like this. This is really just a once you get going, you're going. There's no respite anywhere on the course, and so once you go into the red zone, it's hard to come out of it.
Wong taking a look off the front here, getting an early lead. She gives herself 35 meters over Chris Jobel-Hickok in second. This is a bold move, but they say fortune favors the bold. So Wong kind of going all in here. This is she's trying to cause the split early. She's trying to find the selection, saying, look, let's not mess around. Let's just figure out who the 4, 5, 6 stars in this race are going to be. And it looks like that separation is happening right now. We'll see if she can tack on to the back of this group.
Yeah, I was just wondering if she was maybe setting something up for a teammate there who's just come around her. Melissa Wong looks to have just set up now back into the green. I'm not sure who else it was from the Canyon Esports team that came through at that point, but maybe just setting something up for a teammate just to get, as you said, Brad, to get that breakaway away from the group and set something up. So there does look to have been a selection made early on. No surprises as who we find in that selection. Jobel-Hickok, Tracy, O'Mara, those that were animating the race on the Paterberg yesterday. Obviously, all three of these riders feeling really good right now. Again, and Sidlick and Goadby as well. So our main protagonists for this story so far are continue to tell it in this chapter.
Yeah, I would say these 5 names that you see at the front right now, Tracy, Doble, Hickok, O'Mara, Godby, and Sidlick, have really been 5 of the biggest animators of this series so far. So once again, the selection being made, and it'll be interesting to watch Folk here too. This is a new rider for me, so I'll be keeping an eye on her, sitting in 6th right now.
And that would
yeah,
be
and Brad,
Canyon,
you know what?
Sorry, Frank.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, Falk from the Canyon SRAM team, or the Canyon Esports team. You know what I was just saying, she was in the red for a significant amount of time there, right before that last switchback, trying to get up to this group, and I think that's going to bite her in the long term. As you can see, she's starting to dial back her effort now.
Yep. See a lot of riders in this situation too that get caught out as the pass is made. It's really hard to ramp up that effort. If you've been in the red zone, then you drop down to green waiting to get caught, and then the group flies by you. Sometimes it's hard to ramp that back up. So I wonder if maybe she just got caught off the back a little bit. We'll try and keep an eye on Wong and see where she ends up. Nice to see all of our riders at home on their trainer setups. It's always good to get a look at where people are riding from. And they're going to look a lot different here in about 20 minutes from now, guys.
Yeah, 100%. They all look pretty good at the moment. Christy Double Hickok there in the top left, looking really composed, just standing up on the pedals, maybe to bridge over to bridge a short gap. We can't see the screen, but yeah, all looking particularly well composed there. Not too many people struggling, but then we are only 7 minutes in, so you wouldn't expect them to be creasing just yet.
Frank, we were talking about the caliber of riders in this lead group and in the Echelon Racing League. I'm looking at this front group right here, and it looks a lot like the team that's going to be representing the U.S. at the Esports World Championships later this year. They had the esports qualifiers on RGT earlier this year. Godby made the team. Tracy made the team. Doble Hickok made the team. So they'll be representing the United States at the first upcoming Esports World Championships presented by the UCI, which I think is coming up in December. Is that right, Frank?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe it's the first weekend of December 7th or 8th. And yeah, I think, we've got half the USA squad in this front group right here. And so, these are the elite of the elite when it comes to e-racing.
That same story in the men's race as well. We have a good chunk of the team that's going to represent the United States at the Esports World Championships here in the Echelon Racing League. This schedule is also a perfect sort of warm-up roll into Esports Worlds to get a little bit of racing under your belt before Worlds come up. So it'll be interesting to watch those riders. We'll certainly be cheering them on. If you want to cheer on your favorite riders in another way, check out wearenations.com, where they have the official Echelon Racing League merch up now. They've got t-shirts and all kinds of gear for every single e-racing team here in the Echelon Racing League. So if you got a favorite squad, head on over to wearenations.com and check out the official Echelon Racing League merch. I'm going to see if I can get a t-shirt in the shop. All the teams have one. I think I need one, Frank.
What's your we need to get you a saying, like a
I work
Brad
on a logo,
Stoner
catchphrase and all that stuff. Yeah.
I think we can get you one in there.
Yeah, how about Fortune favors the bold? I like that.
I like it. I like it. We'll get Weird Nations to get you a logo.
All right, well, watching this lead group here, I'm watching the colors. As Sidlick gets up to the front here, you saw her briefly go into green. They want to ride just enough. This kind of goes back to the art of RGT and the art of trying to ride on this platform. James, it is possible to get a pace line going here. In fact, we've seen a lot of riders talking about that as they get more familiar with the platform. There's a right way and a wrong way to ride in a group on RGT.
Yeah, 100%. We've just actually launched a team time trial event. So one of the community members is organising a team time trial event. We can see by the power numbers in the videos of the guys when they're completing the team time trial events, the better drilled the teams are, the more they ride together as a pace line and not as a blob, the better that the times are, because the riders are well rested when they come onto the front. Having said that, not going to make much difference. The watts saving at 9-10%, traveling at 10 11 kilometers an hour is nominal. There's not much to be had from it at this stage. It's a watts per kilo fest, and riding in the group, all it does is give you that mental strength to stay with somebody, go that bit deeper beyond where perhaps you would go if you were riding solo. I'm just looking at the numbers though of the guys behind. They're not getting gapped any further. They're sticking at around 180 meters. That's just gone out to 200 meters now, so I'm perhaps wrong, but they're not written off just yet. We're very early on into the 3.4 kilometers of a 13 kilometer climb, so there is potential for some riders to bridge up if they start to struggle at the front.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of this will depend on the response from these lead riders. It's going to be in the way that they race. If they start racing negatively, kind of looking at each other, saying, you take the lead, obviously that allows the riders behind to give it a chance. But guys, looking right now at Krista Doble-Hickok and Christy Tracy here, certainly doesn't look like they plan on slowing down anytime soon.
No, Krista Doble's really putting it in. Right before that last switchback, she did a nice little VO2 effort to really kick up the pace, and it's obviously put some pressure on the group and broken them up a little bit. It looks like we're down to 3 out of the 5. I'll be interested to see if Tracy and Sidlick can make it back on.
James, the switchbacks on the Stelvio here are actually pretty advantageous for riders if you're trying to chase someone or if you're trying to hold someone back. Obviously, you have the distance marker you can see to the right of their names on the leaderboards on the left side, but sometimes it's good to just get a visual look. I'm an American, so I have no idea what 100 meters looks like unless you can measure that in hot dogs and guns for me.
I can't measure it in hot dogs and guns, but I think these guys can probably measure it in pain. 100 meters is just an extra 100 meters of pain. 100 meters is old money. Do you use feet or yards?
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs, 100 meters.
Let's go with feet. With feet.
Hang on, no, we'll do the foot long hot dog then. Will that work?
Okay, there you go.
I think it's 3 foot long hot dogs to a meter. So it'll be 300 hot dogs, Brad.
All right, thank you very much. That I have a much better idea of what's going on out there now.
Yeah, Google's my friend, I think, on this one. How many feet per meter?
2.67.
No, that's not right.
I think you're using the Oscar Mayer measurement, Frank. You got to use the other conversion.
My apologies.
Yep.
Okay, so Christy Tracy looks to have been gapped. So I did see when we last went to her that she was having some wires moved around from her headset. I don't know if that was the distraction for her or actually she's just decided to step off the gas and ride at her own pace. Doble-Hickok and Amara turning the screw at the front, as is Gobi and Sidlick. I mean, they're all up astonishing numbers, 4.5, 4.9 watts per kilo. Christy Tracy might be as well, just to ride her own pace and try not to go with those with that front group. And who knows, maybe we'll ride back on in her own rhythm.
Yeah, under 10K go here, and she doesn't look like she's panicking, Frank. I'm seeing her just like kind of in between yellow and orange here, but hasn't gone into the red. So this is actually smart riding by Christy Tracy if she's trying to catch back on, because she doesn't want to go too deep just yet. She's keeping it right on the limit.
Yeah, I was about to say, where you see those front 3 tend to be bouncing around the pain area, the VO2 and threshold, the yellow to orange to red zones. Christy Tracy and Sidlick seem to be riding a much steadier effort and just riding within themselves. And I think they're taking the tortoise wins the race approach, and just trying to play it patient and hope these 3 riders outride themselves and kind of put themselves into the hurt locker where these 2 can claw back and come over the top.
I'm wondering if there's some thoughts up in this front group of, hey, we got Tracy gapped off the back. Let's try and hit it harder and get rid of her so she can't come back. You see, Doble-Hickok keeps ticking into the red here up at the front. So I'm wondering if this is sort of some real-life tactics here where she's seeing that they're causing some separation. Sidlick getting dropped here as well. James, you think there's a chance that maybe we're seeing a 3-rider alliance up here at the front to try to get rid of Sidlick and Tracy?
It's entirely possible, isn't it? I mean, they would be well placed to be thinking about even the finish, even at this stage. Having said that, I think for Sidlick, maybe even the guys at the front, the women at the front, they have to ride their own race on this climb. They have to think about their own race, their own numbers, their own abilities. The moment they start trying to go with or trying to drop another rider, if they're not within themselves, I think that's the moment that they face getting dropped themselves. It's a fine balancing act at this point, even now, coming up to 5 kilometers into the event.
What a superstar lead group here with Doble Hickok, O'Mara, and Godby here in this lead group of 3, and looking more and more like they're going to stay there. This is Stephanie Sidlick sitting in 4th place out there right now, just trying to close down that gap, but doesn't look super fatigued here. Still has some left in the tank, although at 9.4 kilometers to go, that doesn't seem like a lot of distance for any bike racer. You think 10K, that's easy, but Frank, 10K up the Stelvio is a whole lot different.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If I was in any of these riders' shoes right now, and I looked up in the top right and saw 9K to go, 16 minutes into this race, it would be a little punch to the gut. There's a lot of racing remaining here.
Sidlick just dangling off the back here, maybe trying to do what we saw Christy Tracy doing earlier. You don't want to go too hard to chase back on, so just trying to make sure she doesn't redline the engine here. Little effort on the switchback, the steepest part of the climb here, going over 20% elevation gain. And they'll do that several times around the, I think, 22 switchbacks on the Stelvio. I might be wrong on that. You guys want to hear some fun Stelvio history?
Absolutely. I was just about to say, we're going to get a history lesson on the Stelvio today. I learned something new about the Paterberg yesterday. Yeah,
so in addition to measuring in guns and hot dogs, we also have terrible schools here. So I'm not sure how correct this is. I learned it when I was a kid. But believe it or not, the Stelvio used to be the border between Italy and Switzerland. It was originally owned by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. For a long time, the Austro-Hungarians and the Italians were fighting on either side of the valley. They would fire shots across the valley at each other. But the Swiss were at the top of the valley, and they said the neutral Swiss, of course, said, hey, your bullets keep coming up to the top of the valley. And so the Swiss were the only people that were able to get the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Italians to agree. They came to an agreement that they were only going to fire down the mountain on each other. So eventually the border was moved, and it is now fully encompassed in Italy. But a lot of history here in the Passo Stelvio. 1860s, I think, is when I'm talking about the border being moved there. And then the pass itself was built starting in 1820, was finished in 1825. James, how long did it take you guys to build the virtual Passo della Stelvio? Because it took 2,000 people 5 years in real life. How long does it take in the video game world?
Not quite as long as that. I can tell you that much. I think this was probably about a 3 or 4 month build for us. This was a new event, so it was a new. This was one of the first roads we built. Is what I'm trying to say. So it was the Stelvio was a learning curve for us. So we had to learn as we were going and understand new processes, and we've actually learned a lot since creating the Stelvio as well. But yeah, probably 3 or 4 months to answer your question. One of my favorite climbs, personally, the Stelvio Path. I think the switchbacks at the top and the views make it one of the most picturesque places to ride a bike in the world. Certainly within Europe, it's an amazing place to go. Home to the Marathon of the Dolomites, which a good friend of mine won in real life event when he was he used to ride with Lance on US Postal, claim to fame, and then he moved to Italy, where he did a lot of the sportive events in Italy, and he won the Marathon of the Dolomites. That's Jamie Burrow. But yeah, an absolutely brilliant venue for a race. Such a stunning part of the world.
Yeah, super cool to be able to race here on the Stelvio. Again, one of the really cool parts about the RGT race platform. And I'm excited to see the new courses that you guys are building for our USA cycling events, the events that are normally on what we call the Pro Road Tour, the PRT here in the United States. As we saw the schedule at the top of the show with races like the Tour of the Gila, the Redlands Bicycle Classic. Going to be really exciting for the riders to be able to visit those courses as we move further into the season. Frank, we have a great lineup of races. It really is a classic classic collection of American races in the Echelon Racing League.
Yeah, we've Eric Hill and I have worked really closely with the North American Race Promoters, Race Directors Association, who are that organization's made up of most of the professional race organizers within the United States, to bring them in and help create a great calendar for the Echelon Racing League. We're allowing the race directors to choose the stages for their events. So Tour of the Gila will be our next one, December 4th through 6th, and we've asked that promoter to provide us GPS files of the courses they want to see, and I think the viewers are really going to enjoy the courses that have been selected for that race, and probably more than the riders when they see what they have coming.
Yeah, we get a full season of pro racing, but we also have amateur racing throughout the year in the Echelon Racing League. The Echelon Racing League invites you, cycling enthusiasts of all ability and levels, to compete in the Echelon Racing League Amateur Series presented by USA Cycling. The Amateur Series is composed of 11 races and scored as an Omnium Series. Competition is category-based, so everyone will have fun, fair competition, and the top 10 riders each week get an invite to race in the pro races the next weekend. You can visit echelonracingleague.com and click on races to learn more and sign up.
And I think it's important, Brad, just to let the viewers know that amateur series is free. The basic membership for RGT is free, and to join the series is free. So it's no cost to the riders, and you can jump in if you're already riding your trainer. Why not take a chance and see how you can do?
Yeah, give it a shot. How bad can it be? Worst case scenario, you go through the worst hour of your life climbing up the Stelvio. All right, these three still together. Be perfect for Frank. O'Mara, Godby, and Double Hickok. I got to give Stephanie Sidlick some credit here. Just hanging, dangling off the back. You were talking earlier about the distance back. She's been sitting like right at 40 meters back so far. So Sidlick is not quite out of this one yet, but she's certainly in a tough place right now.
Yeah, I can feel that. Dangling in no man's land, as it is often known as. There's not much to go from, as we've said in the draft, when you're up at 12%. Very, very little. Perhaps in third wheel they'll be picking up a little bit, but there's, it's hardly worth it. It's the psychological pain or the psychological encouragement that some riders get by seeing the riders in front. Sidlick was actually closing down a little bit then and was as close as 20 meters. But yeah, we're looking at the course profile now. Brad, I don't know if you want to talk us through it.
Well, I was just going to ask, we're coming up on 7-8 kilometers to go. We're about halfway up this climb, somewhere like that. I want to know about the dark orange section, Frank, because I know you've ridden this course before, or previewed the Stelvio at least. Is there a noticeable section that's the hardest part on this course, or is it pretty much all just a grind?
It's all just a grind, and I think more than the orange section where it does tick up to above 10%, there are two little switchback sections where it does kind of flatten out to like 3 or 4%, if I remember correctly, and those little switchback sections are a glimmer of hope, if you will, for all the riders, as they're about 2/3 the way up the Stelvio, so they'll be approaching them here soon.
I'm looking for what would be 5th place on the switchbacks here. Don't even see them, so I think we're looking at our first 4 here. 5th place going to be decided between Tracy and Felk, looks like, back there, but don't expect to see them come back together. And Sidlick is down to 50 meters now.
So I'm just making some notes on those numbers and watching them go in and out as they get a little bit closer and then a little bit further away. Sidlick was down to 20 meters at one point and then gone back out to 40 meters, then back down. Tracy more consistent, just hanging at the back at 160 meters. She was at 24 minutes. As we come to 25 minutes, just dropped another 10 meters off the group, but it's not as straightforward as that. Obviously, it depends on who's on a straight road and how fast they're going, that distance marker. But looking really tough. I just noted Double Hidcock then, I think it was in the rally kit when we went to the Pain Cave view, just dancing on the pedals, looking really composed, really like in really good shape. So I'm going to start the predictions early and go for Double Hidcock, just judging by that last cut to her on the trainer.
I'm going to take O'Mara based on the result yesterday, feeling fresh. So, Frank, that leaves you with Jacqueline Godby, who is an excellent choice, by the way, already a stage winner here in the Echelon Racing League, and also a qualifier in the esports worlds, where she won the world's qualifier for USA Cycling. So we got 3 good riders. I don't think it's impossible to pick a winner out of this group of 3 today, but they're not going to stop us from trying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a race like this, Godby's a professional triathlete in real life, so steady, hard effort for a long time. I mean, that's right up her avenue.
Yeah, it's been interesting watching the different types of riders come to race on RGT. I think a lot of people thought that the best road riders were going to be the best virtual riders, right? The riders that we're used to seeing winning in real life road races, we thought would just dominate on the platform because they have the best power, right? But it's really about riding the right way, riding for the platform. Kind of like how I'm terrible at football, but I'm okay at Madden.
The comparison I like to make, right, is I think e-racing is it's a different discipline, right? You have road racing, you have cyclocross, you have mountain bike, and you have e-racing. And just because you're good at one of those disciplines does not equate to you being good at another. And so it does take practice, and it does take learning the nuances of that discipline in order to excel at it.
Yeah, that's a good point, James. This is not a subset of road racing. This is not a subset of any of the other disciplines of racing. We're really seeing virtual racing becoming its own entity out there.
Yeah, I'd like to still think it was a subset of cycling, but it's definitely its own entity. I think cycling is full of incredible, for me, romance and culture, and there's so many things that come with cycling. I would hate it if it lost its identity through the virtual, through it becoming virtual, and I don't think it will. So I think it will still always be like a cycling product, like a cycling esports will still be a cycling product, but it will retain that mystery and some of the unwritten ground rules and all those sorts of things. I think they'll traverse really well into a virtual place. And as developers and event organisers and athletes, this gives us a great opportunity to build something new. Like, this is the first time in my lifetime, in my generation, I can think of where we've had the opportunity to produce a new format, a completely new format that is enabled by technology to do so much more than the limitations of the real world. It's so exciting to see where it's going to go.
Well, a lot of the romance is still remaining. Yesterday, we had the discussion about whether or not we were going to allow white shorts in RGT. So a lot of that stuff is spilling over into the virtual world.
I mean, as a traditionalist, should we agree to white shorts? I think some of the Velaminati rules, as some of you might know them as, or the unwritten ground rules of the keepers of the cog, some of them aren't perhaps worthwhile, and the etiquette takes it a bit far, and they should be banished to the books of time. But some of them, why not? It's cool. It's what makes cycling. Look at that view down the switchbacks there.
Yeah, this is super cool to see. I saw the helicopter arrived earlier. I think I heard the chopper flying overhead and some fans cheering along the Stelvio here, so pretty cool. Godby getting gapped off a little bit here, guys, as we're getting to the top of these switchbacks now. Double Hidcock has been dominant, riding at the front for most of the day today, and this is a tough spot for Godby, Frank. She's got to get this together and get back on these wheels.
Yeah, if you look, her power to weight numbers there have kind of fallen a little bit. She was doing between 4.5 to 5.5, and now she's dropping down closer to the 4 range. Sidlick is quickly catching up to her, while Krista Doble's just putting the hammer down, just a steady machine rolling up this climb.
Hey, we were looking at Double Hickok's setup yesterday. I think she's dropped one fan. She had another fan blowing on her from behind yesterday. Oh, I see it now. It's in the doorway to her left. She moved it back a little bit, so still adjusting her pain cave setup. It's important to stay cool out there, Frank.
Oh, absolutely. We, Mallory McCrosty is my girlfriend. We live together, and our setup is we have 2 air movers, commercial air movers as our fans, as well as 2 additional fans. And we open the windows. Just the cooler you can get your environment and the cooler you can keep your core, the better you can perform.
Yeah, it's been really cool seeing everybody's various setups, the pain caves, seeing Jacqueline Godby riding with her fiance when they went on to win men's and women's races on Friday. That was super cool. Just cool to get a peek into everyone's pain cave. So everyone's got their unique setup. Everyone likes their setup a different way. So it's been interesting to watch everyone tweak that and watch everyone purchase fans as well. There's like a competition out there to see who can get the biggest fan in their pain cave.
There is actually, I can't remember which it is, but there's a quote pro e-racer. I can't remember where I read it or who it was, but they have a portable air conditioning unit in their pain cave as well as a dehumidifier, in addition to their 2 fans that they have on them, and they wear an ice vest for their warm up.
Just like real life.
Yep.
All right, here's a look at the races continuing after we wrap up the RGT Railroad stage race today. Tour of the Gila up next in Silver City, New Mexico, December 4th through 6th. This is a classic American race, 30-plus years down there in Silver City. For the first time this year, they didn't hold the event, but we are going to have our virtual Tour of the Gila. So really looking forward to that and getting into virtual Silver City in December. Then it's 2 one-day races, the Thompson-Bucks County Classic and the Armed Forces Cycling Classic before we go to the Gateway Cup for a few days of racing. There's another classic out in St. Louis. Then it's back to virtual California for the Redlands Bicycle Classic. This is arguably the oldest, the most recognizable American stage race remaining on the calendar. And then Joe Martin stage race followed by the Green Mountain stage race. And then one of my favorite races of the year, the Tour of America's Dairyland, because I love chocolate milk and I get unlimited chocolate milk when I go up to Wisconsin every year. None of that, so I'm going to mail you guys some chocolate milk for our Tour of America's Dairyland coverage, and it'll be very realistic, just like real life.
That is a good idea for a T-shirt for Brad.
There you go.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to the Bucks County Armed Forces weekend. Those are, living in DC here. That's my local race weekend. Bucks County is about 2 hours away, and the Clarendon Cup course that we're going to be racing on for Armed Forces is the only professional bike race that I can get up out of my bed 2 hours before the race, put a kid on, and do a 20-minute bike ride to show up to the course and line up. So I'm really excited for that. 100-kilometer crit is going to be something.
Well, pretty soon you're going to be able to do a 2-minute walk into your basement and ride the course. So it's getting even closer here on RGT.
Yeah, with Tour of the Gila, we'll have November 28th will be the amateur race. They're going to be racing the famed Gila Monster course. I just got the GPS file and working with James and the RGT crew to get that uploaded so that people can start reconning it. But it's looking like it's going to be 43 miles with, I think, 4,200 feet of climbing. It's going to be a fun day on the trainer.
Guys, take a look at this. Sidlick and Godby have now linked up. Godby dropping back out of the group, and Sidlick tacked on here. So this is turning into a good battle back here between Godby and Sidlick going at it, as Sidlick sitting on the back, Godby dropping out of that lead group of 3. And so now it's 2 up front against these 2 racing for 3rd and 4th.
I was actually trying to work out what was happening. Was Godby sitting up a little bit and waiting, or was Godby cracking and Sidlick was bridging over? I think it was perhaps 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, to use a good old British expression, where neither really. I think they just rode their own race and ended up joining forces. Having said that, that puts Tracy back in contention for a possible podium position. If those two continue to drop off the pace and Tracy continues to hold her current pace, then it's possible that she will make the catch and has reduced the gap between Sidlick and herself, I think, over the last kilometre or so. So this is what we talked about earlier on, with that need just to keep on tapping that rhythm out. This is, you know, all about watts per kilo, all about consistency, and all about riding your own race. What a turn up that would be to see Tracy managing her power and her effort that well, that she does ride herself back onto the podium for the final stage.
Wow, how huge would that be if Christy Tracy was able to get back into this one? That would make for a ride of the day for me. So we'll be keeping an eye on Christy Tracy in fifth, who had a rough start, but another good line for my T-shirt. It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah, you know, looking here, though, if we could go back to the Sidlick-Godby group, it looks like Sidlick's really putting the numbers down, trying to gap off Godby as they go through here. If you look at the distance between the two riders, about 5 meters, but it keeps jumping out there. And yep, there you go. Godby's dangling off the back of Sidlick now. Sidlick's out of sight.
Yeah, there we go. Back into the green and maybe just needing to sit up and take a breather. What have we got? Maybe 20, 30 meters coming up there. So 70, 80 feet gap.
And there they are. That is Godby up top and Sidlick down below. Neither one of them looking super worried, although they do seem to be showing the fatigue of the ride. I'm watching their shoulders moving side to side. I always look for that in real life racing, but your form goes out the window a whole lot quicker riding on the trainer. Obviously not as important out in the real world. Look at the difference in colors. Sidlick going red and orange. Godby sitting right in the green zone here. James, this is interesting. Why would Godby be riding so easily right now? Maybe she's at threshold?
I don't think she's at threshold. I think, but to use a technical term, I think her legs are punctured. After some absolutely, you know, overwhelming performances for the last 2 days, perhaps it's taken its toll, and she's really starting to feel some fatigue now. Literally parking it, you know, going backwards. Sidlick gapping her, with ease. Sidlick gapping her quite nicely, and let's see what happens with Tracy as she is coming up on Godby now. She is closing that gap. Sidlick looks to be bridging up as well. She's now only 84 meters.
Yeah, Sidlick having a resurgence.
Yeah, absolutely. Great riding. And again, this might be a measured effort. Sorry, Frank. Go.
Oh, no, I was going to say, you know, I think that's one of the unique opportunities opportunities in quotes that we're going to see with the Echelon Racing League is this is the first virtual pro series where we've had true stage races and true race weekends. You know, other e-racing pro series are one race every few days or so. So I think the cumulative load taken on racing day in and day out is gonna highlight who can race like that and who is used to those one-day efforts.
Yeah, great point. A multi-day stage race, much different. James.
Yes, I guess it's the difference between form and fitness. You can come in with good form, but if you haven't got the fitness to support that form, then we might continue to see the sort of thing we're seeing today with Godby riding incredibly strongly, and then the fitness isn't quite there with Sidlick, but incredible form to ride as strong in the earlier events. I did notice Godby making another surge as we were talking a moment ago, going into the red for quite a while, maybe just a last ditch effort to bridge over to Godby. But Tracy is making ground up. 100 meters? No, she's not. She's holding Godby at 100 meters. So it's really interesting as this is playing out, because don't forget, all of these riders have had a really good first two stages. I think we're looking at the best of the best so far, as we should be at this stage of the series, at this stage of the race. And by race, I mean not stage, but race. So we're going to get into the race stage series thing again, and I don't want to start that conversation. But this is the cream of the crop, and they are rising to the top.
Elena O'Mara, after a good ride yesterday, a new name for us here on the Echelon Racing League, riding with the Amy D Foundation team, a new addition to that team as well, getting some of her first race experience with that Amy D Foundation squad. That's really what the team is all about, giving riders opportunities to really explore what they can do. And I am very excited to see O'Mara in the next couple of years here, because she has shown that she is definitely a natural talent here.
Yeah, one of the protagonists in all three stages, I think, O'Mara, coming to the fore later on in the first stage, but part of the event, part of the race yesterday at the Paterberg, and certainly animating the Stelvio stage today. Again, Double Hidcock looking so comfortable, stood up out of the saddle. I don't think I've seen her sat down. This is some real form, looking absolutely fantastic. Just turning the pedals. Just turning the pedals.
Yeah, Frank, look at the difference in the style between Christy Tracy and Krista Double Hidcock. Double Hidcock is all over the place, and Christy Tracy, the ultra-endurance athlete, is steady, calm, not really moving positions a whole lot as she moves, just as I say that, of course. But it does look like Krista Double Hidcock is much more aggressive on the bike. Maybe that's a product of, coming up racing outside or racing in road races and criterions and stuff like that for Krista Double Hidcock.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's the time trialist versus the climber, right? The time trialist is used to the one aero position for a long period of time, where the climber, aerodynamics aren't all that important at 9 miles per hour. So you can be all over the bike. You're just looking to put out power as any way you can. And as we say that, O'Mara looks like she has attacked Krista Doble.
Wow.
With a 40-meter gap there now.
By O'Mara here.
960 meters to go to the finish. We're almost at the top. This is going to be interesting.
Did not expect us to return to the leaders and see Double Hidcock gapped, looking so confident, standing up in the pedals like we saw her there. But I mean, 50 meters now for O'Mara, really turning the screw. I think Double Hidcock's been found out, and is right now, the gap is going out.
I love this. Elena O'Mara taking it to Krista Double Hidcock, arguably one of the most experienced riders in this field in Hidcock, who has raced professionally with the rally cycling team for several years now. Her career goes back even past that. O'Mara, though, a new rider to the scene, racing with the Amy D Foundation team. So if Krista Double Hidcock didn't know who Elena O'Mara was before this, she sure knows who she is now.
Yeah, and if you look, Stephanie Sedlick's really put in the moves in there too, trying to claw back on. I don't think she's going to make it, but it's a concerted effort to lock up third place there.
We're just coming in through to the final section as well. We've got 1.6 kilometers worth of climbing left to go for Double Hidcock, 1.5 kilometers left of climbing left to go for Elena O'Mara. This is where it all counts. It's a long way still. Still probably 5 minutes of racing at this gradient. We're nearly out of these final switchbacks to the top, but it's still all to play for. With something going wrong at the front, and these riders just continuing to ride their own race, you could see O'Mara get caught, but looking absolutely fantastic out there at the front now, Brad.
Meanwhile, gaps widening from Sedlick to Godby and Godby to Tracy. Sedlick sitting in third, Godby in no man's land here in fourth, and then Tracy behind her. Meanwhile, O'Mara has completely distanced Krista Double Hidcock at 100 meters now, almost out of sight of Double Hidcock here on the switchbacks. Guys, this is an incredible ride. Watching O'Mara go up against, again, one of the most experienced riders in this field. For a rider like Elena O'Mara, Frank, this is how you get noticed. And this is going to be one of the really cool things that we see coming out of virtual racing. Riders that are making the leap from virtual racing into real life, because Krista Double Hidcock will have the opportunity to talk to her team, talk to her directors, her team owners, someone like Charles Aaron at Rally. You say, hey, I was doing the RGT stage race the other day, and there's this young girl, Elena O'Mara on the Amy D Foundation team. That's how you get on a director's radar, and that's how you start getting offers. I'm not saying it's going to come from this ride. You don't get a ride with Rally just from winning a stage stage of the Echelon Racing League, but you certainly get on the radar in a way like this. So really interesting for Elena O'Mara, and that is exactly what the Amy D Foundation is trying to do. So this is a perfect case study for the Amy D Foundation.
Absolutely, and we're ecstatic that Amy D Foundation, was able to participate in the series. The big philosophy behind the Echelon Racing Series, and the reason the schedule is when it is on the calendar, is it's to provide during the traditional road off season a venue to highlight riders and teams and race and real life races. During a time where traditionally there's not much going on and there's a little black hole in racing for bikes. So yeah, no, exactly what you said. I think this is phenomenal for O'Mara. It's definitely going to get her name out there and get her recognized and noticed.
Yeah, and James, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier of where this fits into the ecosystem. We're not replacing road racing. It's something in addition. So when this whole COVID thing is passed and we get back to real life, I think virtual racing is still going to be around in some capacity. I know that's an obvious thing to say to a guy who works for a virtual racing software company, but I really do see this sticking around for years after COVID ends.
Well, I do hope so. I think it's a compliment to the Northern Hemisphere winter season, and with all respect to America, you guys don't have many races over there right now. The UCI don't support many of the USAC events. You've got Tour of California. I think that's one of your only UCI registered events. It's the same as it is here in the UK. We don't have that same level in the UK either. But it's Europe. Europe's where it's at, and Europe's where the UCI events are. And in the winter, they don't happen. So you have cyclocross and maybe some track. But this is a complement to that. It's much more accessible. I think we're looking at O'Mara there. The finish line was in sight. Switchback was just... the final switchback is just up the road, is it? I think, or we're just coming to the finish line now.
No, this is the finish right here.
Yeah, this will be it for O'Mara. She's going to solo to the line and take on Krista Doble-Hickok on the Paso dello Stelvio as she'll get the win here on stage one of the RGT Real Road Stage Race. Krista Doble-Hickok going to hang in there for second. Still a good ride for Doble-Hickok, but maybe a little disappointing. I think Krista Doble-Hickok really thought she'd be able to win on the Stelvio today. I certainly thought that she would be able to, but a great ride from O'Mara here. All the credit in the world. Now we got to watch Sidlick, Godby, and Tracy come in. I'm trying to look at the distance there. I think Godby and Tracy are going to be the only two that'll have a chance to maybe come together, but looks like they're pretty well spaced out. So Doble-Hickok going to hit the line in second place here, and then we'll go back and try and find Stephanie Sidlick and Godby behind her. So here's Sidlick on the way in. Almost got Chris Doble-Hickok. Great ride for Stephanie Sidlick today. What a performance. Dropped out of the pack for most of the day today, but her persistence pays off and she holds on for a third place finish. James, I am thoroughly impressed by Stephanie Sidlick here.
Absolutely, what a fantastic ride. I mean, for all three of these athletes, even Godby and Tracy, absolutely phenomenal rides 3 days into the stage race, being able to pull out such impressive numbers for the best part of 50 minutes. Phenomenal. I just want to pick up on Elena O'Mara again. I don't think we've said enough about her. That was phenomenal. I mean, we looked up at the end there and we were doing 5.1, 5.2 watts per kilo. Obviously, an extremely lightweight but very capable climber. Looking at her wattage output against the watts per kilo, she must be super light. What an amazing athlete. I think we've seen someone very promising today. Godby now just coming up to take the fourth spot from Sidlick. Is that a third spot from Sidlick?
That's going to be fourth for Godby.
Okay.
Sidlick ended up in third. Godby will be fourth, and then should be seeing Christy Tracy in now. This is her. And this will be a good ride for Tracy. Fifth place, maybe not what she was looking for, hoping to be on the podium at least on a day like today. But all in all, this has been a successful weekend of racing for Christy Tracy. No question about that. She'll have 3 good results to add to her resume after 3 days of racing here at the Echelon Racing League. Frank, overall, things going pretty much how we thought they were going to. 1s and 2s coming across the line. Although, I got to say, the Krista Doble-Hickok and Elena O'Mara battle was awesome to watch all the way to the line. That was really fun.
Yeah, I think overall it was definitely a 1s and 2s coming across the line there. I do believe the underdog kind of came out of nowhere and took it, right? You know, we discussed at the beginning of the race there who to watch, and O'Mara was not on our radar at all. And it was impressive. That ride from her was very impressive.
You see the riders just cooling down and trying to chill out after a tough ride here. We'll let the last riders finish up. You see Esther Boville on the way up as we continue to wrap up our top 10 riders here.
What do we know about Elena O'Mara apart from she has a very, very lovely dog with her?
I know she's got a super cute dog, and that's all I need to know.
Good boy. They're all good boys.
All right, we'll see if we can grab a word with Elena O'Mara here in our Zoom conference room. And I think we've got her muted. There we go. Elena, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Oh, okay.
All right.
Sorry.
So first of all, most important question, what is the dog's name?
This is Jim.
Say that again.
Jim, like Jim.
Oh, what a perfect name for a dog.
Yeah, he's
amazing.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Jim. Thanks for being with us today.
He loves when I get sweaty like this.
Jim knows you won.
He says, good job.
Hey, so Elena, first of all, congrats on the win today. This has been a whirlwind of a weekend for you. We were talking yesterday. You said relatively new to racing. Well, you're going to have to get used to doing these interviews if you keep riding like this. It's been a good intro to virtual racing for you so far.
It truly has. I, luckily got into the virtual riding just in August when I ended up getting injured. So I was like, you know what, I should just get the indoor trainer, and it's been a good investment since.
Yeah, what was your prep like? I mean, have you been doing indoor specific training? Are you doing workouts to target these Echelon Racing League events?
Yeah, my coach, Dan Smith, he's been able to kind of monitor what I'm doing and cater it towards these events. So he's been really great about prepping me. Prior to racing bikes, I ran, so I didn't really know what workouts looked like on bikes. So I was able to get a coach, and that's really helped me kind of determine what to do and how to prep for events like this.
And then tell me about how you ended up with your team, the Amy D Foundation team, obviously a big part of this and a big part of your building in your racing career. How did you end up there?
So locally, Catherine Curry, Pamela Levine, Maddie Ward, Sue Lynn, Holt, they're all kind of in this area, but it was mostly Sue Lynn who I ride with, and she was able to get me connected with that group. So it's nice to know that the other ladies, despite being in a virtual world, we're all actually pretty close proximity-wise in real life. So I think that's made the community a little bit easier to join in with.
Yeah, it's an awesome program, and very clearly they found some budding talent in Elena O'Mara. So Elena, congratulations on your second win of the weekend. Your plans for the rest of the season? Will we see you at the rest of the Echelon Racing League events?
Yeah, definitely. I'll try to make some of those. So that's my plan.
All right, Tour of the Gila coming up next. Elena O'Mara, congratulations. Your winner today.
You.
We are just about 7 minutes away from the start of our men's race coming up next here in the Echelon Racing League. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll start talking about our pro men. The 2020 Echelon Racing League is brought to you by Biomoto.
By the motor in you. By Hyper Ice. And by Nations, enhancing the reach of esports. Beautiful look at the Paso de los Stelvio overnight and into the sunrise. Guys, one of the most iconic views in cycling. Maybe not one of the most beautiful views from the mountains up there, but certainly one of the most iconic cycling climbs that you'll ever do in your life. Frank, have you had a chance to go there IRL? Have you been there in person yet?
If things change in the world and we can travel places, it's definitely on our list to go tackle.
Yeah, I know James is planning his travel to Borrego Springs after learning about the incredible art scene there. There's going to be a pretty strong tourism boost to Borrego Springs after this stop of the Echelon Racing League.
Yeah, I'm certainly down for coming over to the States again. I've only visited a couple of times, Colorado, Denver. I've had a great time when I have been over there, but I've never been to Borrego. It looks great, so I would quite like to test that out. Have been to Italy and I've ridden a lot in Italy, and you're absolutely right, Brad. Great place to ride a bike.
I think we're going to see a lot of riders that get to do these climbs on RGT for the first time, and then you're like, I should try this in real life. I don't know if the Stelvio is going to be one of those because it's a painful experience, but certainly worth the view when you get to the top. All right, guys, let's talk about yesterday. Charlie Valet, the man of the hour, dominating on the Paterberg yesterday for the Canyon Esports team. This was really impressive by that squad because they had 2 riders in a 3-rider break up the road, and they used the Paterberg perfectly to their advantage. They launched on, I think, the 4th lap out of 6 laps that the men had to do. But, James, there really wasn't much that Usborne could do yesterday. That was the rider with the Above and Beyond Cancer team that got stuck in the Canyon Esports sandwich yesterday.
What a great ride, though, from Usborne. I think they were probably hoping for a 1-2, the Canyon Esports team. I think Usborne did a great job of responding at the right times and going with the right moves, and I was really pleased to see the race finish in that way, but an absolutely outstanding ride by Velez and Dagner as well. They really tested Usborne to see how he would go. I've been told we're getting the pronunciation of Dagner wrong, so I'm going to have to clear it with Reese Howell.
Yeah, you got to do it with the German accent. Dehner, Philipp Dehner.
Dana, okay. There we go. But there was a great event. There he is again. Look, Valle's looking pro. These wipes are great as well. Loving this. Looks brilliant. The graphics. Yeah,
this will definitely be a guy to watch in Valais today. But the question is, did he go too hard yesterday? As we saw with some of the riders in the women's race, you can very easily fatigue yourself after 2 days of tough racing, Frank.
Load over a multi-day race. Curious to see how it plays out. And, as a, I don't want to call myself a masters racer because I don't think I am, but as an older racer, this is the type of race where you kind of don't want to line up against the U23 guys, because the U23 guys, they no holds barred racing from the gun, and I really think it's going to be lit up from the start. It'll be interesting to see how much red is shown in the first kilometer of this race.
Are we allowed to let this pass without talking about Velez and his top knot?
Absolutely not.
That looks pro.
My question is whether this is a quarantine top knot or if he was rocking the top knot beforehand. That's important to know if this is a recent addition. Frank, I know you're a big fan of the headband when you race on the virtual platforms. Sweat is a big issue for the long-haired competitors, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were saying earlier, I think it's, trying to keep the space cool, trying to keep air flowing across you, trying to do everything you can to keep your core as cool as possible while racing, preventing that overheating. It's just like a car engine, right? The hotter it gets, the less efficiency you get out of it and the less performance you get out of it.
Well, down to 10 seconds to our race start here. Now, we were talking about the start yesterday, James. They rocket off of the line. You really want to get that pedaling speed up into the red so that when the clock hits 0, you can take off here.
Yeah, sorry, my phone just decided to wake up. It's been sat on the side for 5 minutes and, yeah, just decided to wake up. But, yeah, back to the start. This should be a much more subtle start for the riders. It's no point just breaking your legs now before you're before you've even hit the base of the climb. Looking, there's a couple of riders off the back already, which is surprising to see, but they're not in any danger. They're really not in any danger, and it's not a big problem until 2-3 kilometers into the climb, and that you found your rhythm. And if you're out of the back, then you need to start to worry. But right now, it's all about finding a rhythm and just riding how you want to.
I want to interrupt you real quick just to say Valet is up there on the front at 7.5, 7.9, 8 watts per kilo. He's been in the red for at least 2 minutes. Like I said, those U23 guys from the gun, just no holds barred racing, and it'll be interesting to see how that's going to affect them here, 10K from now.
Certainly hope they can hold it. The riders to watch that you just saw there were based on the power numbers from the preseason event. So Valet was not in that one because he didn't race the preseason test event, but I certainly think he would have made that list of 5 riders to watch after his ride yesterday. So my concern now, James, is how long Valet can do this in the red zone at 7 to 8 watts per kilo. Certainly not going to be able to do that for 13 kilometers to the top today.
No, absolutely not. But looking just on fire. I'm almost speechless watching him go up the road right now. I mean, looking at Sebastian Wolf, I think that is from, it might even be from the community group, Dads Indoors Riding Trainers, I think. I'm not sure. I'm going to get corrected on that, I think. But Velez absolutely just turning the screw from the gun. Yeah, almost. I don't actually know what to say about this young man. Just, it might be the top knot. Just absolutely killing it.
Valet solo up here on the front. Again, the drafting not super important here in the climb up to the top, so being with a group isn't as big of a deal here on the climb as it is maybe on some of the flatter parts of the course.
No, but already at 100 meters, I think was that. That can't be right. No, I must have been wrong there. No. He's 25 meters, so he's 50 meters up the road from a smaller chasing group, which is absolutely right. I was right about Sebastian Wolf. He is from Team Dirt and Dads Indoors Riding Trainers. I don't know if they are still all Dads Indoors Riding Trainers. Looking at Wolf's performance, he's obviously found a good balance from being a dad indoor riding a trainer to be going as well as he is at this stage. But that was a big effort at the start of the Stelvio from Velez. Like I said, almost speechless about how hard he went off and deciding to go that hard that early into such a long climb. Frank, would you attempt to approach the Stelvio pass with a 7.5 watt per kilo attack at the start?
No, there's a reason I'm commentating right now, James, instead of racing, because Velez has settled in at 5 to 6 watts per kilogram, and I'm not doing that. It's a hugely impressive ride, and to start out, he was at 7 to 8 to 9 watts per kilo for the first 2 minutes, minute and a half of this race, and then settling in at a threshold that, he's doing 6.5 right now. Just a phenomenal ride from this kid.
We've seen athletes like this before.
And Usborne.
Yeah, sorry, Brad. Just to come in, we have seen athletes in an event series similar to this before. I think it was David Decker and Mason Holliman, and I can't remember the Italian youngster from our SCG under 23 events, which we hosted on the platform a while ago. And they went on, they were World Tour star riders, and it was a similar performance to what we're seeing from Velez here today. Obviously a very, very talented rider. Just picking up on what you were saying there, Brad, yeah, Usborne and Rebel there again, so the protagonist that we've seen. And Zimmer is a name that rings a bell, so someone can remind me of who Zimmer is, but I'm pretty sure he's an avid e-racer and has performed well on other platforms.
Yeah, Frank, I think that is Matt Zimmer, if I'm correct, Project Echelon rider.
It is. Yeah. Matt, phenomenal climber himself, and newer to RGT, getting familiar with the platform. But was, we were actually on our Discord channel earlier this morning talking, and I think he's a good favorite for today. If him and the rest of the riders in the race can catch Velez, as he just rides away from everyone.
Yeah, if they can catch Velez, that's the key part of that statement, which is looking harder and harder to do. Usborne, the only guy that might have a chance of getting up there, although Ravel's still hanging in. Simon Dubuque also back there, showing in 6th. So Zimmer, oh, there he is in the gap. I couldn't see him earlier. Wow, Velez way up the road here. So you see we're following Usborne.
Yeah, no, I want to say, he's doing the typical U23 rider thing where he just goes out too hard, and you're, I think the big question here is, we're 2.5K into this race, 6 minutes, and it's, has he gone out too hard too fast, and can he hold it?
Good look at Neil Ostenfeld and Jaden Yeager here. Ostenfeld on the left, Yeager on the right. And so these are the guys sitting in, let's see, what I think is 6th and 7th place, somewhere around there. Yeager sitting in 7th, so still riding in the top 10. Gotta say, I think Neil Ostenfeld has some of the best pain faces out there. When you combine that with the hair waving in the fan, I'm glad that he has the front on camera view. Jaden Yeager doesn't have the problem with the hair.
Or the face.
I
mean, Yeager looks. Sorry, Frank. Jordan Yeager looks pretty composed right now. He doesn't look like he's going too deep. Ostenfeld looks similar as well, but there's a bit of Vokler in Ostenfeld. I think that sort of Gurning like Vokler type thing. Yeah. Sorry, Frank. You were saying?
Looking at the colors here, I think it's interesting to point out. We talk about when riders go into the red and when they're in the green. If you say the yellow is threshold, right? That's their 1 hour FTP power, essentially. Velez looks like he's in the yellow. He's doing threshold at 5.5 to 6 watts per kilogram. That's just a phenomenal number there. He's literally riding his 1 hour pace right now at 5.8.
Yeah, this guy is no joke. Definitely a natural talent out there, and a young rider as well. He signed to the Canyon Esports U23 development team originally, so you're going to be hearing a lot more about this guy, and I hope that he has more and more opportunities to race, and I hope we get to see a lot of these riders get out on the road too, as things continue to get better out there. Well, maybe I shouldn't say continue, but hopefully as things will get better one day. I would love to see these guys racing in these real-life races like Tour of the Gila. I mean, a guy like Velez here, I would love to see what he can do on the Gila Monster, Frank.
Oh yeah, and I'd be hard pressed to think that he doesn't already race. I'm looking him up on road results right now. It looks like he's been racing forever. 2018 is the last results they have for him, and he did race in the U.S. He's racing age right now is 21, and he's got some really good results in the pro field. 2018 he was 19 years old, so definitely a star athlete who's really coming into his own right now.
Continuing to gap Usborne and Zimmer, who has now moved up into 3rd. We're keeping an eye on the battle for the top 5 or 10 positions here as Velez continues to drive away up at the front, but these guys are really starting to suffer. That's Simon Dubuque down in the bottom right of your corner, Charlie Ravel in the bottom left, and then Usborne and Velez up top, and top left and top right.
I think
Simon
one of the
Dubuque's
really
got a pretty good pain face here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the great things about virtual racing for people is, in real life racing, when you're watching a bike race, you don't get a feel for how hard the riders are going, other than looking at the rider. Whereas, with the virtual racing, we do have the data here, and it really does put everything into comparison when you're like, when you see a star athlete like Velez going up a climb, you're like, oh, I could do that. That's not that hard. And then you see what numbers they're putting on it really puts it in perspective for you.
Back to Matt Zimmer now, the Project Echelon rider who has moved up into 3rd place after leapfrogging a couple riders here. And it looks like he's got Usborne in sight, so we may see Usborne and Zimmer linking up here pretty soon. You can see they're only about 40 meters apart, something like that. So there's Zimmer behind Usborne sitting in 2nd. Go ahead, Frank.
Just behind Zimmer, you've got Thomas as well, who's been really motoring up through the ranks here, sitting in 4th place, and it looks like he might be linking up with Zimmer here in a second. And I think we might see a Usborne, Zimmer, Thomas group coming together.
Yeah, that would not surprise me to see those guys link up there, although it's obviously not as advantageous here on the climb, but I think there's just a mental element to it of being able to at least have some riders to hang with and kind of push you so you know how to measure your tempo up against other riders. Jaden Yeager moving up into 5th place, made a pass on Simon Dubuque now as he'll move into the top 5, so a good battle going back there between Dubuque, Ravel, and Yeager all together, I think, in that group.
Yeager looking, not so much a pain face, pretty reserved there. Looks like he's got it under control as he just motors up.
He looks sweaty and knows he's on camera. Now, one of the cool parts about the racing here, I got to say, the thing I really love about virtual racing, the ability to interact with the riders and see them riding at home is super cool. I think that's a key part to enjoying virtual racing, is really being able to connect these real-life people to their RGT avatars out there on the road.
Yeah, I really think it brings it all together. You see the data, you see the avatar, you see the course, and then when you can see the rider who's putting all that, putting it out and going up the road, when you can see their real life pain face or see how they're experiencing it, it really completes the story there.
I like seeing the different camera angles too. We let the riders choose how they wanted to show themselves for our rider cameras here. Dubuque going with the up close and personal. I like that.
I like how
we need to get that guy a ring light.
And I like how I think that's Revel in the bottom left there from Tor.
Yep.
With the overhead helicopter view webcam. I think that's the first time I've seen that one.
All right, look at this. Zimmer and Usborne. This is the battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And Usborne just dipping into the orange here, as Zimmer sits on in 3rd. Meanwhile, looking up the road, I don't even see Velez for these two. So Usborne's in a tough spot right now. You got to start thinking, am I worried about what's ahead of me, or am I worried about what's behind me, or do I just try and ride somewhere in the middle? All right, here's Thomas joining in now. Guys, this is going to be the race for sure, James. I think Velez is going away. I don't know that we see him come back today, but Usborne, Zimmer, and Thomas will be the battle to watch here.
Yeah, for sure. And just going to remark on Velez's numbers, absolutely phenomenal. Watts per kilo, looking at his watts per kilo, I made the assumption that he was a lightweight rider. I don't think he is too light, because his actual power numbers are super impressive. I remarked earlier on that we had an event on the platform that saw riders go on to be signed for World Tour teams. This is the kind of performance that we saw. It has all the hallmarks of very similar performances. I am blown away by Velez right now and how well he's going. I mean, notice the other guys are going just as hard as well, but Velez animated it from the beginning, and he took it up, and he continues to take it up. So he's having a superb final stage of the inaugural Project Echelon race. The race is coming back together behind. I think Zimmer and Thomas will join Usborne with that 2-3-4 as you've suggested. And there is potential if the riders behind, like Yeager, looked really composed. Ostenfeld looked a little bit in pain, but there is potential for it to come back together a bit. Some of these riders may have gone a little bit too hard from the gun, but just to go back to Velez, no sign of slowing down at all. Looking really, really good.
Yeah, just like we were talking about with Elena O'Mara, you don't get signed from a ride like this, Frank, but you certainly get noticed from these performances. It gets your foot in the door. That they'll read your resume after they see a ride like this, and for a lot of riders, that's the break that they need.
Absolutely, and I think this is a good time to talk about what we've done with Echelon Racing Series. When we talking about impressive power numbers, one of the things that we do to ensure that those are true numbers for the Echelon Racing Series is we do require all riders to provide proof of calibration and zeroing of their power meters and smart trainers. We also require riders to submit a 5-minute and 20-minute power file showing their best 5 and 20 minute within the last 6 months to just help validate those numbers, make sure that the riders, aren't using an uncalibrated power source, make sure those numbers are true. We also require a weigh-in video.
I hope you didn't think I was questioning those numbers, Frank. I definitely wasn't, but they are, it's an incredible effort that we're seeing him put down. It's phenomenal. I mean, and all of these front guys.
Yeah, let's say this is definitely legit. You don't have a power glitch multiple days in a row for Velez. So yeah, we're not questioning Velez's power validity here, but we do want everyone to know that they're on a level playing field here, where everyone we check their weight, we check the power, it has to be calibrated, and we make sure that you don't all of a sudden get better when you start racing in virtual races. It has to line up with your real life power.
Absolutely, and I wasn't trying to say you guys are questioning it, but I do know, as e-racing becomes more prominent, that is one of the major questions you see rise up from real life racers is, how do I know I'm racing against real people? How do I know that they're not cheaters or weight doping or power doping? That terms have come to fruition, and we've done a large effort to ensure that there is truth within the data that is being produced by these riders.
Yeah, so James, they're registering both power numbers, and then Echelon Racing League, they also have to do a weigh-in. Explain why the weight is important to making sure that this is a level playing field.
Yeah, so I'll cover two things off, actually. So I think it's really important that we make the distinction between RGT Cycling owning event participation and event organisers owning event participation. As an organisation or a business, RGT, we've made no claims to having the expertise required to govern events like this, and I think this is where the guys at Project Echelon have done such a great job of providing the support required and making sure that it is a level playing field. It's that's how we work. That's how we want the platform to grow, is by encouraging event organisers to come in and do the things that they think are important to them and produce events in the way that they want to produce them. So one event organiser might decide that they don't feel like transparency is required and let anybody race it. But for these high-stake events like Project Echelon have organised, with in partnership with us, but they control that. It's up to them to make sure that the riders are validated. And the reason that that's really important, I mean, obviously from a performance perspective, the amount of watts that you're seen to be producing is super important, because that's what gives you forward momentum. But if you think about what gives you upward momentum, it is watts, but it's watts divided by your body weight. So the more you weigh, the harder it is to move your mass up the climb, and the less effect each single watt will have in producing that forward and upward momentum. So body weight is super important to know the rider's actual weight, so then you can work, and then the platform RGT uses an algorithm to work out the speed as a proportion of the gradient versus the amount of watts that have been put in and the body weight. So that's really important. So body weight is an essential metric. It has to be accurate, and we have to make sure that we've got up-to-date information on the rider's weight.
Yeah, nice to know that everyone out there racing on the same power numbers and the same course here as well, to make sure that they get a standardized experience out there. Coming up on 7 kilometers to go to the top of this climb here, a unique point-to-point race here as well. I love that we race from the bottom up to the top, although, James, on RGT, I saw earlier today some of the riders were riding down in the first-person view. That was maybe one of the coolest video game experiences I've ever had, descending the Stelvio in a first-person view on the smart bike. It was super cool.
Yeah, we've had a build in the past for Oculus, so the virtual reality headsets, we can produce a build for that. The technology isn't ready from a hardware perspective to support like a proper virtual reality mask, but when we've done it in the past, riders fall off. They literally fall off because they lean to go around a corner and fall off. It is that immersive. It's that much fun that you feel like you are there. I mean, with the headsets, you can look around and see the whole virtual world. You've not got a limited field of view. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a super immersive experience descending down the Stelvio. Plus, you don't have to put any watts in to get down either. You just cruise.
Oh, it's the best. Best part of riding. Well, guys, watching Ben Thompson here resurging up to the front here into second place as Thomas went past Zimmer, then past Usborne, and now Thomas sitting about 90 meters behind Charlie Valet. Ben was second place on stage 1, where we saw John Cooper take the win, although it was a close one, so he wasn't far behind. So Thomas is another rider who we've seen a lot of, but hasn't quite made it up to the aggressive front riding like we've seen from a lot of these riders. So Thomas likes to kind of sit back, stay quiet, and then when it's time, he makes his presence known. Having a great ride today. That's Ben Thomas in second place.
Back on board with Velez.
Look down the switchback. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, we're back on board with Velez now, riding at a steady 420 watts average there for the time that we're on board with him. Like, this is a great opportunity for club cyclists and enthusiasts to understand why they can't sit with the pros, or why they can't sit in an A+ race or a Cat 1 race when they actually race in real life or virtually. These guys are just, you know, this is how well they perform, and it's great to see them on the platform. For me, as you know, working for RGT, this is a good moment for us. Those numbers are great, but Thomas Usborne starting to come back on Velez a little bit. Maybe Velez is just sitting within himself, and yeah, just calming down slightly. But they are coming back on him. That gap has reduced slightly there. We're down to 90 meters, I think, for Thomas and I can't remember who Usborne was. It was the other chaser. I lost my thought there.
Velez is definitely starting to feel it. I'm watching him on the rider cam here, and he looks much different than he did at the start. We'll show you here in just a second as he continues to climb up to the top here. But 90 meters, 100 meters, that's kind of been the sweet zone where Velez has been keeping Thomas, Usborne, and Schaub at bay. There he is, starting to suffer. At least the top knot is still in effect. It's still functioning and doing its job, so good to see there.
Yeah, it's keeping the hair out of his eyes, and I'm sure it's making the sweat less of a problem for him. But yeah, looking a bit more human there and starting to feel the pain, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we're down to 80 meters now. It does look like Thomas is bringing it back. He's got off Usborne, and then you have Schaub, who's come up through Dubuque and Zimmer for fourth place, and it looks like he's on pace to catch Usborne here in the next kilometer or so as well.
Yeah, interesting to see the gap from Thomas to Usborne here, about 20 meters between them, and then a huge gap from Usborne back to Schaub in fourth place. So, yeah, Thomas and Usborne really going to be the two that are going to have a shot at catching Charlie Valet, and I think they can do it here today, guys. Look at the gap now, down to just 60 meters from Valet to Thomas.
Yeah, this is starting to get exciting now, isn't it? Seeing Thomas and Usborne come back in the way that they are. But I think even Usborne, despite being distanced by Thomas, is coming back on Valet. So, yeah, we may see this come back together at the pointy end of the race. And Schaub as well for Above and Beyond Cancer PB Bike World. Like you said, coming up through, passing Zimmer. Who knows what's going to happen next? You know, you can never discount it on these long climbs. If you blow up, if you put the brakes on, that's it. You know, you do go backwards, and you go backwards quite quickly. So we might see it come back together. Maybe Valet is just having a breather and making sure he has timed his effort appropriately, and he isn't. You know, he's just allowing the guys to come back to him, knowing that he's going to have that break and be able to go again. Or maybe you know, he is hurting and they are going to go past him. But we're going to see. I think we're going to see soon, because I think we're down to I think it's about 20 meters now. Is it for those two?
Yeah.
No, it's still 30 meters or so.
Thomas coming like a freight train behind Charlie Velez here, and I do think he's going to make the catch relatively soon here in the next kilometer or so. Velez, you got to give him credit, though, for the aggressive riding. This guy attacked pretty much from the gun, got himself solo on the climb, and then just started tapping out the tempo, found his zone. But this is the art of racing, Frank. It's about knowing how much you have in the tank and trying to time that out just right, rationing your energy so that you have just enough left at the finish line.
Well, and it looks like Velez has, calmed it down. It looks like he's riding endurance / tempo at 4 watts per kilogram like a normal human being. And, I think he's kind of trying to regain some fitness there and recover a little bit as Thomas is going to catch him. Let's see if Velez can catch when Thomas comes over the top here.
Oh, look at Thomas in orange. Now Velez has to respond. This is good racing right here. Just like real life, Velez now has to redouble his efforts to try to stay on Thomas's wheel here. And that's going to be bad news for Usborne, because if these guys start racing against each other, they're going to leave Usborne in their dust. So Usborne definitely would have wanted to go with these guys if he could have. But now Thomas and Velez are having a slugfest up at the front.
And I think actually, Brad, we're at a short flat section for Villet and Thomas, so it's probably perfect timing for them to join forces. There may be some drafting benefit just over the next 200-300 meters, just before this next hairpin. It kicks up again, I think, but that section there was flat, so maybe they would have put a little bit more time into to Usborne there, and in fact they have. Usborne's now at 100 meters, I think. So those two guys going against each other and rounding off each other, it looks like they've gapped Usborne by a little bit more. Villet looking like he's in a whole world of pain. He's certainly hurting more than he was. I think the great thing about virtual cycling is you have to do less riding, so less concentration, so you can go so hard and you don't have to worry about falling off your bike because you're completely exhausted. I mean, Villet has had a big ride so far and can just keep doing that without having to worry about falling off through the amount of effort he's putting in. Back on board with Sharp
right now. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, we're back on board with Sharp right now as it looks. You see Villet just turning up round the corner there, and Usborne is looking like he's closing the gap now to Thomas and Villet down to 50 meters, with Sharp only 90 meters behind, so 150 meters off the leader. And we've seen a gap come down from that big, with Thomas bridging over to Villet. So anything's possible now. They could quite likely come back together.
It looks like Villet is I think Villet's cracked, guys. Looking at the numbers he's putting out now. Well, yeah, he's been dropped, and you look at his numbers. I mean, he's riding within his endurance tempo zone. He's trying to recover. I think he's put himself into a bad spot, halfway up this climb, 2/3 up this climb. I'll tell you,
looking at Villet on his rider cam right now, if this were real life, he looks like a guy that's looking for a gas station to buy like 3 Cokes and a Snickers to try and get home right now. I mean, he is suffering. This is like, we've all been there where you're like, I just need some calories here. I will literally eat anything at this point. He's starting to crack, I think.
Phenomenal ride, though. I mean, just absolutely crushing it. And, like we said, I think this is the U23 inexperienced mentality, right? Where you go out from the gun super hard, adrenaline pumping, especially when you're lining up in an elite field like this, and then you get off the front, notice that you've got the gap, and then that adrenaline kicks up to another notch, and you're headstrong and rolling it, and then 20 minutes later you're regretting those decisions.
Time to pull out my t-shirt. Not how you start, it's how you finish. By the way, I also have a special election edition t-shirt of that coming out as well here. All right, we'll stick to bike racing.
Usborne's just joining Velez as well now, and turning the screw as well, and coming through quite hard still, and forcing Villet to do some chasing to stick with him and keep riding. I think you're right, Frank. I think Valet has found himself in that unfortunate position of doing too much too soon. Perhaps as an air of, I guess, with power figures like Valet, you can afford to be a little bit arrogant, but perhaps an air of arrogance to think that he was going to be able to ride off for the entire duration of the climb. But with 3 kilometers to go, it's put him, I think, 4 kilometers to go. It's probably put him in good stead for a podium position, or certainly a top 10, riding so hard so soon. And there we go.
Absolutely.
You can see the riders just falling off by the way.
And Usborne was kind enough to Valet to not go into the red and ride right through him and keep riding and make Valet chase. He came by nice enough to Valet was able to slot in behind him and kind of keep pace.
Yeah, another Austin Post.
Back.
Sorry, Brad.
This is Post is.
You got Austin Post. Yep.
Yeah, Post is one of the community riders who qualified through the amateur events. Doing a phenomenal ride here for 5th place right now.
Oh, that's an interesting story to come from the amateur Echelon League and then get the entry. Frank, it's the 10 best riders from the amateur race. Is that right?
So yeah, we're still. I'll be honest, we're still trying to fine tune how we're doing that selection. The way we're going to be looking at it, because the professional riders are permitted to do the community events as well. We're going to be taking the top 10 amateurs, that is the top 10 people who are not on professional teams or in the Echelon Racing Series professional series, and providing them a wildcard invite into the professional race weekend for men and women and in the Cat 1 races.
Nice. Some new faces, new riders, getting a chance to race in the pro races. Good way to move up the ranks and test yourself against the best in the league.
And the real benefit
further here.
Yeah, the real benefit to that is, we make the Echelon Racing Series, the pro teams, we make them set their 12-person rosters at the beginning of the series. They're not allowed to bring on new riders mid-series, with the exception of a transfer period we will have in December. And so that what this will provide is some of those community folks that are really making these phenomenal rides. It gets their name out there to elevate them up, and so as the professional teams start looking in that transfer window for new riders, as people leave, people retire, go to new teams, they can look at these community riders who are making these notable rides week in and week out, and recruit them so they can participate in the series for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, everybody wants a shot at racing a lot of these Echelon Racing League events. See the schedule on the screen right now. I'm also waiting for the first reverse crossover, where a rider starts on virtual racing and then comes out to one of these real-life races like we were talking about with Tour de Gila. I'm sure we'll see some new riders at these races this year, so that's exciting. And hopefully I'll know their names from seeing them on RGT.
Yeah, I think you and James touched on Friday, but I'm waiting for the further crossover where one of the virtual races or one of the real life races builds a real life course, real life stage based off one of the RGT stages.
Well, they certainly are beautiful out there. You can see some pretty incredible scenery here from the top of the climb as we get further and further up. James, this is by far one of the most beautiful courses on the RGT platform. Time well invested by the art and development team here.
I think it's only going to get better, the Stelvio. There's probably a hint in some of our development work. It's exclusive to you guys actually right now, but the Stelvio is only going to get better. And you're right, it's already a beautiful looking road with those serious switchbacks. Just picking back up on the racing, Valet has been passed by Schwab, I think, our German rider, and is still going backwards, literally parking it on the climb, and is possibly going to get caught again. But I think it was, the name escapes me, but there was somebody about 300 meters back who looked really strong as well. So could also possibly come up on Valet and pass him. That was, Hutchings, no, he's not close enough to do it. But yeah, Valet actually going backwards.
Yeah, Valet definitely learning a valuable lesson out there today, that's for sure. And yeah, Frank Thomas taking over on the front. Once he made that pass on Valet, it was like night and day. I mean, Thomas flew right by him. Valet did his best to try to hang on, to try to respond, but it was pretty clear that Valet had gone too deep at that point, and no surprise. Staying that far off the front that early for that long, I don't know that you could ask anybody to try to respond to being caught and try and hold on to a wheel. So 2.2 kilometers to go here for Thomas as he tries to hold off Usborne at 130 meters back. And here is the Canadian riding for the Above and Beyond Cancer team. An international podium here, guys. A Brit, a Canadian, and a German sitting 1, 2, and 3.
It'll be interesting if in these remaining kilometers, if Schaub can catch second place there. It looks like that he's gaining on him. I just don't know if there's enough road left.
So we are coming to the very final section as well. No, I think, yeah, 2 kilometers of racing left for Thomas. I think we saw in the women's race the finish line was slightly earlier, about 200 meters earlier as well. So if we're looking at 2.1 kilometers, it's more like 1.8 kilometers. I've made a note of that as well, and I'll ask our developers to just take a look to make sure there's nothing we can do to fix that. But yeah, there's not much road left. So if anything is going to happen, it needs to happen soon for all of these guys. But yeah, I mentioned. Sorry, Frank.
I was going to say, it looks like Schaub is motoring with a mission right now. He is gaining quickly on Usborne. Pedaling looks like a half watt per kilo harder than Usborne, all up to a watt per kilo with 1.9 K. I think there's going to be a good little fight here for second place.
Yeah, Schaub's going to be here soon. That's for sure. He's going to be up in that group here very quickly. This is Usborne at the bottom of your screen. I've been trying to get a read on his facial expressions, but I think his ring light died.
Usborne looks like one of the Night Watchmen from Game of Thrones. I would not want to go up against.
All right, so just waiting for this gap to come down between the German Schaub and the Canadian Usborne. And then meanwhile, Thomas continuing to motor away. Look at this, 220 meters up the road on Usborne right now. I don't know if Thomas is coming back today with 1.4 kilometers to go for him up to the top. And look at this, James. He's in the green zone, even riding blue around the switchback. This guy's feeling good right now.
That's good to see. It's good to see Thomas using the road, riding it as you would in real life, backing off on the corners, not wasting his power as he's turning those tight switchbacks. If you watch the power number in the top left-hand corner, if that goes red, it means that you've got the brakes on, and actually any power you produce when the brakes are on is wasted. So obviously Thomas has done some homework and he knows how to ride the platform. You don't pedal through all the corners if you don't need to. But yeah, this is really exciting final stage for the inaugural RGT Cycling Project Echelon Partnership Event Series, whatever we shall call it. It's been great so far. 1.4k to go for Usborne and Schaub have now joined forces. They are both riding for the same team, so there's going to be no allegiances right now, as every man will be for himself. Frank, how do you deal with that scenario yourself? Have you find yourself with a teammate on the final lap or on the final closing sections of a climb? What would you be thinking right now?
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks like there are no allegiances, and Schaub just said, we'll split the money at the end, right?
Yeah, I think that question just got answered there, James, by Schaub here.
I think it's at this point, right, third place is not in any worry of getting caught by fourth. They've got second and third locked up, and I think it's just a friendly competition between the two teammates at this point. They're not catching first. They're not getting caught by fourth. So now it's just, let's have some fun with each other, and we're going to split the payout amongst the team at the end of the day anyway.
We saw this yesterday with the Canyon Esports riders. 1 and 3 were racing against each other. Charlie Velez was texting his Canyon Esports teammates. We saw they were trying to communicate during the race. So there is some strategy that goes into this. Obviously, as you were saying, it's not as important for Schaub and Usborne right now because there's no threat of them being caught by Charlie Velez or them catching Ben Thomas up the road. So yeah, they're free to have a little bit of fun and free to have a little bit of friendly competition. But there are times on the RGT platform in the Echelon Racing League where riders will have to work as a team. You have to decide who's going to attack, who's going to be the first to go. There's the same tactics of kind of trying to draw other riders out. You have these, like we call them TV attacks in real life, where you have these breakaways that go away extremely early but force the field to chase. So a lot of real life elements coming into virtual racing strategy.
Yeah, I think Friday night's racing, perfect example of that. I think the Restart Racing guys, as I experienced firsthand, did a great job of sending guys up the road to make the peloton chase and soften up the field, so that they could, send Jaeger or Dowd to counter. Thomas is just gonna. What's the button, James, so that Thomas can get off his bike and walk it across the finish line?
Do you know, we need to develop, the fact that you don't have celebrations in esports when a rider crosses the line is beautiful, as Thomas should now cross the line and pick up his bike, as you say, and hold it up and show everybody. There, with a little cheeky wave there, saying
little wave there. That was good.
Hey, James, I will personally pay to have a. I want to get a confetti cannon developed, so just send me the invoice for that.
Yeah, we can do that. We should go back to the racing, as Usborne did bridge back to Schaub, and now it is a 2-up sprint. And I love these uphill sprints. They seem to last forever in slow motion, unless Schaub has got a better chance of the podium overall, which he may have, because it looks like Usborne is letting him go. But I can't remember what it looks like for these two. But yeah, they're great, these slow motion sprints, if they do happen. It doesn't look like it's going today, though. That's a shame.
Yeah, it looks like Schaub going to get this one, as Usborne gives a little wave to Schaub up the road, saying, nice job out there today. So Schaub will ride to second place. The German going to get the silver medal today, and Usborne will hold on for third to take the bronze in the Echelon Racing League Real Road Stage Race. Stop number 3 today on the Stelvio, as Thomas, Schaub, and Usborne. That is your podium of 3. Here comes Charlie Velez up to the line. Guys, a great ride this weekend. We can't talk enough about how exciting watching Charlie Velez was this weekend and how exciting it's going to be moving forward, Frank. This is a guy that is now officially on my radar.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Velez, I can't wait to see how this guy takes the lessons he's learned from this weekend and, applies them moving forward. I think he'll be phenomenal in the Tour of the Gila. I think that's going to be a great race for him and all, the rest of the calendar as well. He's a phenomenal bike rider that's going to do some great stuff. Post here from the community events, he's definitely going to be on some teams' radars who are looking for riders when we hit the transfer season for sure. Just a phenomenal ride by Post, and then Revel coming up for 6th here, giving it a little bit there for a sprint across the line.
We should we should just remind ourselves of how this race broke down from the start. Talking about Velez there, with his attack from the moment the clock hit 0, he went from the gun and got himself in a gap, and he went for 8 or 9k on his own before he got caught at 5 kilometers to go, and that was when Thomas bridged and just went straight over him. So for Velez, the climb was just 4 kilometers too long, guys, but what an amazing effort he put in there at the very beginning to make that selection as Jaeger comes over the line now. One of the riders that you would have thought would have wanted to be at the front of this race that was found out by Velez and Thomas and the likes as we got to the climbs and slopes of the Stelvio Pass.
I see the riders cooling down and getting ready for our post-stage press conference here. We'll try to grab a word with a few of these guys, give them a chance to catch their breath, because after a trainer ride like this, Frank, it's totally different than a real-life ride. I've interviewed riders like as soon as they cross the line in real life, but I have never had a rider as out of breath as they are after finishing a virtual race.
Yeah, it's it's something you really just collapse on the bike, and it takes a good minute or two to kind of be able to catch your breath to even be able to utter words, or take a drink, or just anything. You cross the line, and it's a feat to turn over the pedals just to start your recovery spin.
Yeah, totally. Feels good to be done, though, as they wrap up a long weekend of racing. Now they get a couple weeks off until we head to the virtual tour of the Gila coming up next at the first week of December. So we're going to try and grab a word with these. We're going to take a short break before we do that. When we come back, we're chatting with some of your riders from the Echelon Racing League men's event on the Stelvio. The 2020 Echelon Racing League is brought to you by Biomoto. Find the motor in you. By Hyperice. Move better and enhance your recovery with Hyperice. And by Nations, enhancing the reach of esports. As the sun sets on the Paso dello Stelvio, the sunset also setting on our rides here in the Echelon Racing League. We're going to grab a word with our early attacker out there today. Didn't quite make it to the podium, but Charlie, you got the award for the most aggressive rider out there today. Lesson learned today. Did
maybe
you
a little overconfident after yesterday? What happened out there today?
I think it was really trying to get Ben up the road, get them off the front as soon as possible. For me, it was a case of being a bit heavier, just trying to sit in, keep it as steady as possible. I knew a few would come back past me, but pretty happy with that, to be fair.
I think we just got a random interview in there. I'm trying to figure out who that was in our Zoom room. I'm going to address Charlie here, and then I'll go back to, that might have been Ben that joined in. I'll try and figure out who that is. But Charlie, the decision to attack early, was that in the plan today?
It was, yeah. It was definitely a case of get up there as early as possible, move up as far as possible, being a bit heavier. I knew that it would be a case of just sit as steady as I could. And then we knew that we had Ben, obviously, to go for a pretty big effort. So holding back just for that was pretty solid.
All right, this has got to be above and beyond cancer. Charlie Velez from Canyon Esports Racing here. I'm going to ask you about the early climb. Charlie Velez.
My plan was initially to go from 10 kilometers to go, but I felt good, but I didn't expect the climb to be as long. So, I did go a little early on my aspect. I did have the confidence that I could make it, but I sort of blew almost to the finish. I was close.
Yeah, were you worried when you realized you were kind of out there by yourself? Was it like, I kind of thought I would have more riders with me early on?
Yeah, I did. I thought, I mean, having a couple more riders to come with me would have been nice to have been able to just push, to have more of a aggressiveness to push together and work together, but it is what it is. Just have
All
to,
right,
I mean, no one wanted to go, and I just went with it and tried to make it stick.
well, you got a little time to recover before we head to Tour of the Gila first weekend of December. Will we see you there racing the virtual Tour of the Gila?
Probably.
All right, can't wait. Going to be an exciting one. That's Charlie Velez. And now let's see if we can get Ben Thomas in. I just saw him in our group. Ben, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear now. So take me through the day today. Patience paying off for you out there.
Hello.
Were you surprised when you saw Charlie Velez out there? I think Ben's having Zoom connection issues. Sorry about that, Ben. Asking about when Charlie Velez went off the top, were you surprised to see him out there that early?
Yeah, definitely. It was an early attack, but I knew that the race was just going to split straight from the start. Definitely didn't have the legs to follow it from the start, but kind of went my own pace and yeah, kind of came back slowly as you do on a climb like that. Can't really go over the limit, but yeah, I was definitely surprised at the pace that he went off.
We were noticing your riding. You seem pretty familiar with the RGT platform, the way that you were riding the corners, taking off the gas a little bit. Not your first time riding on RGT. What is your virtual racing experience like?
Yeah, I mean, the team, Tour 2000, we've done a few races on RGT now, and yeah, definitely getting used to it. I think each time that you ride the platform, you learn something new, and yeah, really enjoying the experience.
And any riders that you had marked today after the first 2 days of racing this weekend? Was there anyone that kind of caught you off guard or anyone that you were really watching?
Hello?
All right, I think we might be losing Ben on Zoom here, so
yeah,
we'll
sorry,
goodbye. Oh,
yeah,
sorry
my
about that,
Wi-Fi, my Wi-Fi is pretty patchy, so I apologise. But yeah, I think from the first, or even when we saw the entry list, we saw kind of the strength of the teams that are on the start list, so we knew there was a lot of riders to look out for, and we know certain names from all the races that we've done on here and other platforms. So yeah, I think there's definitely people to watch out for this weekend and the rest of the series as well.
Yeah, do you plan on racing the rest of the series? Are you planning on racing every event, the 22 days of racing?
Yeah, that's the plan at the moment. Obviously, it's hard to kind of put it into the normal schedule. I finished up my season 3 weeks ago at World Mountain Bike Championships, and I've pretty much had 3 weeks off before now. So, bit of a shock to the system the last 3 days, going from nothing to maximum effort. It doesn't feel good, but yeah, hopefully over the next few weeks, as I get back into training, it should feel even better. So we'll see what happens over the next few months. Looking forward to it.
Oh, right back to work, but it seems like the form is coming back pretty quickly. Congratulations on a great ride today, Ben. That's Ben Thomas, your race winner here on Stage 3 of the Echelon Racing League up the Paso dello Stelvio. Well, that does it for this weekend of racing. Frank, the series continues December 4th through 6th with the Tour of the Gila in Silver City, New Mexico. I can tell you I have been back and forth on the phone with race director Jack Brennan. I am super excited about this one to get some real-life racing onto the virtual RGT platform. Do you guys feel the energy over there at Echelon Racing League headquarters?
To get this race launched and to let people experience Silver City, New Mexico, and the Tour of the Gila, at least in a virtual sense. And people can tune in November 28th for the amateur race to get a preview of the Gila Monster Stage with the amateur event, the community race, the weekend prior. But the 4th through the 6th, it's really going to be a an action-packed weekend, and it's going to be something to watch.
Well, it is going to be a huge month of racing in December with Tour of the Gila and then the Thompson-Bucks County Classic and Armed Forces Cycling Classic before we go to the Gateway Cup and then Redlands and then Joe Martin, followed by the Green Martin Stage Race and the Tour of America's Dairyland. So, James, any final thoughts from you? An impressive today on the Stelvio, but every day we get to see these guys racing out there on RGT. It seems it just gets more and more impressive every day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to avoid making this about RGT and the platform. I think props to the guys at Project Echelon. They've done an incredible job of pulling the riders together. And props to the teams and athletes that took part. Really, really blown away by the commitment that they've shown, by the effort that everybody has put in, including the athletes, to see Valet go so early and attack so hard, and Gobbler and Tracy and Double Hickok, all of those athletes have made the Project Echelon first event an absolute spectacle. I think it's some of the best esports, best e-racing I've ever watched. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I'm part of it, and I don't know. It just felt like actual virtual cycling, not something else. It was good. I really enjoyed it.
December 4th can't come quick enough for the virtual tour of the Gila. All right, that is going to do it for our coverage today, guys. For everyone here at the Echelon Racing League, James Vickers and Frank Cundiff with me here on commentary. My name is Brad Soner, saying thanks for watching. Don't forget, virtual tour of the Gila, December 4th through 6th for the Echelon Racing League. We'll see you there.